Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over major winter storm Gail, which is going to be impacting portions of the Northeast and the interior mid-Atlantic. We're going to be going over the GFS and the European model to see what they're both showing for snowfall. We're also going to be giving you my personal snowfall, rainfall, and ice accumulation forecast for this entire storm. If you would like a personal forecast, leave a comment down below with your state or city name, and I'll give you a personal forecast, and I'll try to respond within about an hour or two of you posting it. We've got a lot to go over in today's video, so let's get right into it here. So here is the current National Weather Service page. We'll go from west to east. We have some winter weather advisories for portions of the northwest, especially in those higher elevations. In parts of the northern Sierras, you have some winter storm watches and some winter weather advisories, and we have some winter weather advisories for the Central Plains, which is actually part of the system that's going to go kind of like this and track into the northeast, and that's what's going to end up being our big snowstorm for portions of the northeast. We have high wind warnings and watches up for portions of Montana and Wyoming, as well as some wind advisories in Texas and New Mexico, as well as portions of Oregon and California. So zooming in onto portions of the eastern United States, here's what your watches and warnings look like, because I know on that zoomed out shot it can be quite hard to tell what exactly your area is under. Now we'll go from north to south here. We have wind chill advisories over northern Maine, where wind chills after the storm on Friday might get down to near -20 or even -25 in some areas. So definitely take precaution if you live within that area. Now in that purple further to the south, that's where we're looking at some winter weather advisories. That's for portions of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, even a little bit of Tennessee and a little bit of Georgia there. We also see some winter weather advisories for portions of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and northern West Virginia. And then in those darker blues, that's where you're looking at winter storm watches, which those will probably be upgraded to winter storm warnings in a little bit there. So it kind of makes a shape around that pink region, and that's for much of the coastal northeast and getting into the interior mid-Atlantic there. And then we're looking at some winter storm warnings. That's for portions of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, into Virginia, West Virginia, and into North Carolina there. That is all from the system. And then we have some flood watches for southern Maryland, and then I believe those are coastal flood advisories for coastal New Jersey and much of Delaware. Now we have to kind of understand what's happening in the upper atmosphere to really understand why the storm is going to track the way it is. Now we have a big blocking low pressure out near 50 degrees north, 50 degrees west, and that's going to be really bringing down this high pressure further from Greenland, and then bring that further to the south into Quebec, and that's what's going to be holding the storm from kind of moving straight up. It's going to be held by this high pressure, and that's going to allow it to move off to the east, and that's why you're going to see that snow for many of these regions. So the thing that shifted overnight is that rain snow line went marginally further north, and that's because the low pressure out here is expected to be further to the south. If this was up near Greenland, then you would have much of that high pressure spilling in, and that would actually spill in even further to the south, bringing in that low pressure further to the south. So there's a real chain of events that have to happen, and that's what we're seeing unfold in that upper atmosphere. So let's see how that translates down on the surface. Here's the high resolution European model and what it's showing. This is going to be entirely on Wednesday and Thursday. We're not going to see too much happening on Tuesday. So this will be by Tuesday right around 6 p.m. We're looking at just some scattered rain and snow showers for portions of the Ozarks there, so nothing really too impressive over there. But then that system starts to organize and moves into Kentucky and Tennessee, and then by that point you're starting to see some light to moderate snowfall moving through portions of Illinois and Indiana. This will be by around 3 a.m. Central Time. We start to see some of that rain and snow mix start to move into portions of Virginia and North Carolina. Maybe some major ice accumulation issues, especially if you live within this region. And now also we're starting to see a little area for West Virginia also started to get added for most of that heavy ice accumulation. So if you live really, I would say, anywhere within this region right here, you have to be quite aware of your situation, and you have to be definitely very vigilant because we could be be seeing quite a bit of ice accumulation throughout those regions. Now, this would be by right around, I would say probably right around 9 in the morning on Wednesday, and we're looking at some of that late to moderate snow still moving through much of the Ohio Valley, and then some of that rain snow mix further to the south. Now the system is starting to get more of that nor'easter shape to it, and then as I continue forward, you start to see heavy snow in that, I would say that medium or moderate shade of blue right here over northern Virginia. That would be right around an inch per hour. So definitely that's some fairly heavy snowfall rates. If you even start to get into the darker blues, that's where you're getting closer to 2 or 3 inches per hour. So definitely we could have maybe a couple areas getting to 2 or 3 inches per hour in some areas. At mainly Wednesday night is when I think that's going to be most prevalent there. Now here's by probably right around this would be right around 5 or 6 p.m. and we're looking at some of that snow moving through portions of the Northeast, and I think that snow for areas like Philadelphia and New York City are probably going to start right around 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern time. Now here would be by 7 p.m. and we're looking at still that heavy 1 inch per hour snowfall moving through southern Pennsylvania, Maryland into Virginia and northern West Virginia. Some of that moderate to lighter snowfall still on the outskirts of the storm, but moving this forward, you can start to see that rain snow line starts to really take definition. And what we're seeing is the system, a lot of the models want to bring the system and kind of intensify it a lot more, which would mean that it would be able to counteract that high pressure further to the north here. So that would allow it to kind of move against it a little bit and hug the coast a little bit. What we were seeing before was kind of more of just a track out to sea that would bring a lot more snowfall to some of those coastal regions, especially right around here. But that has gone down just a little bit, just because that rain snow line has shifted ever so slightly to the north, and those margins are what's going to really define the system. Here would be by 1 a.m. on Thursday, you see some of that rain pulling to the north, but we are also looking at some heavy snow as you get further to the north as well. And then getting through around 4 a.m., here's by 7 a.m., and I think probably by 5 or 6 a.m., much of the areas along the coast are now switching back over to snowfall as we start to get some of that colder air and as temperatures start to fall into the lower 30s. And then moving through the day on Thursday, here would be by right around 10 in the morning Eastern time. Here's by 1 p.m. and much of that snow is now moving out into portions of New England, so that's when most of the areas near Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and even into portions of northern New England as well might get most of their snowfall. And then here would be by right around 7 p.m. and most of that rain and snow activity is off and out to sea into the Gulf of Maine, and it's now moving into Nova Scotia by that point. Now here's what the GFS model is showing for this event. We start to see this approaching as we get to right around 5 in the, or actually this would be 7 in the morning on Wednesday, which would be tomorrow, and we're looking at by probably right around 1 p.m. tomorrow, some of that snow now moving into the mid-Atlantic, and then right around 7 at night, we're looking at more of that snow blanketing portions of the Northeast. You get a little bit away from the coast, and you're starting to get some of those very, very strong and definitely gusty winds as well, but also some of those heavy bands of snowfall in there, and you could see some potentially whiteout conditions. I think especially as you get into eastern Pennsylvania, northwestern Maryland, northwesternmost Virginia, a lot of those areas will be dealing with some heavy snow and gusty winds at times. And then the system continues to move through, it continues to really strengthen, and that would push it a little bit further to the north. What I'm not seeing on the GFS model, which is kind of intriguing me because the layers of the atmosphere would definitely support this, is a freezing rain or a sleet line, kind of a thin, very thin one, but at least some sort of freezing rain or sleet. I'm not seeing that on the GFS, and I think that's just a glitch with the computer model. I think you will have a thin line, although it's showing up as rain here. I think definitely a thin line just south of that snow is going to be probably in the form of sleet or some freezing rain mixing in there. So definitely don't be taken off guard if you do see some of that sleet getting a little bit further to the north. And then here to be by right around 7 in the morning, that heavy snow now on that back end, it's going to start tapering off as you get to right around 1 p.m. Most of that moderate snowfall is now into southeastern New England, and then as we get to right around 7 p.m. Eastern time, it's all moving out. So Here's what the European model was showing: under an inch to 2 inches in the grays, 2 to 6 inches in the blues, 6 to 10 inches in the purple. In the more vibrant pink, that's where you're looking at 10 to 20 inches of snowfall, 20 to 30 inches of snowfall in the lighter shade of pink there. And we're looking at maybe closer to those 20-inch amounts over portions of Pennsylvania. I think these are a little bit overdone. I think you could see a couple amounts closer to 18 or 19, but probably not closer to 24 inches. I just think that's a little bit too high. And then you're looking at that big swath of 12 plus inches of snowfall for many of these regions according to the European model. And I think I do agree with this quite a bit, because it's not too strong. The system is not going to have enough time to get super strong and really just powerhouse through to the north like what the NAM model is showing, for example. That is not going to happen. It's a bit too it's going to be over land too often for it to really be that strong. But I do think it will get a little bit stronger, and I think that rain snow line is pushed slightly further to the north than what we were dealing with yesterday. So I think this is a fairly good model to use. Here's that ice accumulation, and we are looking at a couple amounts over half an inch or so in some of these regions over Virginia. So definitely, if you live within some of these regions, take precautions. Now, here's what the GFS model is showing, and again, I think this is a little bit overdone with those snowfall totals, and I also think that is going to shift a little bit further to the south, mainly because I don't envision a storm being this strong where it's pumping out 30 inches of snowfall. If it's pumping out at the maximum 24 inches of snowfall, that's going to shift that storm further to the south, because a weaker storm means a flatter storm, which means that this system is going to go out to sea and just kind of stay on that horizontal axis. If it starts to really intensify, then you know that you're going to probably deal with more of that rain snow mix for a lot more areas. Now, here's what the National Weather Service is going for. And they definitely agree with the European model a lot more than the GFS model in this case scenario. So you do see a couple of those weather service offices pumping out closer to 20 inches of snowfall. I think that's, again, a little bit overdone there, but still a general swath of 6+ inches and 12+ inches definitely possible with this event. So here's my snowfall or my rainfall forecast. Then we'll get into my snowfall forecast. This is going to be from Wednesday through Thursday for a lot of these areas. Under an inch of rainfall for all of these areas highlighted in that lighter green there as you get further to the south. 1 to 2 inches of rainfall as you get into North Carolina, Eastern Virginia, parts of the Delmarva, and into southeastern New Jersey. That's where you're looking at maybe an inch to maybe an inch and a half of snowfall in a lot of these, or of rainfall in a lot of these areas. But if you live closer to the coast over the southeastern Delmarva and into portions of southeasternmost New Jersey, maybe you could get closer to 2, maybe 2.25 inches of rainfall out of this, because it should stay mainly rain for these regions. This is going to be your ice accumulation forecast. So under 1/10 of an inch of ice is expected over these regions. So this is going to be where it might cause a little bit of an issue, but nothing too major if you're just within this area. You see a couple pockets through parts of Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, and then another area through the eastern Ohio Valley, through the mid-Atlantic, and up into portions of the coastal northeast there. And then 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, that's where you're looking at some of those higher ice accumulation amounts for parts of North Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. And then here's that 0.25 to 0.5 inches of ice, and that would be 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of ice for portions of northern and central Virginia especially, and then through southern West Virginia there. That's where you're looking at some of those higher amounts. And I will warn you, over northern Virginia and potentially southwestern portions of West Virginia, you could be looking at over 1/2 an inch of ice if some of the current model projections are definitely correct. Now, here would be what my snowfall forecast is looking at. All these areas I'm expecting at least a dusting or at least some flakes out of the system. So this doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get anything major, but potentially you could see a little bit of snowfall if you're just within this region. 1 to 3 inches of snowfall in this blue region that still covers much of the Ohio Valley through the interior mid-Atlantic and up through the northeast there. And then here would be your 3 to 6 inch area, and that moves through portions of interior Virginia into West Virginia, through Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, northernmost Delaware, through much of central and northern New Jersey, into central and southern upstate New York, as well as Long Island, and then down through southeastern New England. That's where you're looking at over 3 inches of snowfall, but less than 6 inches of snowfall if you're just within this region, and then 6 to 12 inches of snowfall for portions of Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, into portions of eastern and central Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, into parts of New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts there. This is your 12 to 18 inch area, so this is where I'm looking at over a foot. So again, over the interior mid-Atlantic, and then moving into the coastal portions of New England. That's where you're probably going to look at over a foot of snowfall, maybe closer to 18 inches. And then I did want to include that 18 to 24 inch region. I don't think you're going to get 24 inches, but I think it's going to be on that lower end, maybe 18 to 19 inches of snowfall for a lot of these regions. Still, it's going to be a major snowstorm, whether you see 12 inches or 18 inches. It's not really going to make too big of a difference, but still, definitely something that I want to notify you guys who live in that region. You could maybe get maybe 18 or 19 inches of snowfall out of the storm. I'm not expecting closer to 23 or 24 inches. I think that's a little bit overdone there. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. If you would like a personal forecast, leave your state or city name down in the comment section. Also, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, as it really helps the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.